Ancient beasts once stood guard over the world's greatest cities. From the sacred crocodiles of Egypt to the mythical dragons of China, these forgotten guardians were far more than simple creatures. They were living symbols of power and protection that shaped our deepest legends. By the end of this journey, you will see human history through an entirely new lens, revealing the hidden pact between civilization and the animal kingdom. How did a single species become the divine protector of an entire city? And why do we still feel the echo of these ancient bonds today? What story of a protective animal has always lingered in your mind? This instinct for protection runs deep in our bones. Think of the earliest human settlements, small clusters of homes huddled against the vast, untamed wilderness. The night was not just dark, it was filled with sounds and threats no single person could hope to face alone. In that vulnerable state, humanity did not only see animals as prey. They saw potential. They watched the bear, a creature of immense power that could defend its territory against any challenger. They observed the wolf pack, a family unit with loyalty and coordination that made them formidable hunters. They witnessed the silent, lethal grace of the great cats. These animals possessed what humans lacked: raw, instinctual power. So a pact was formed, not written on paper, but etched into the human psyche. It was a bond of mutual respect, born from the simple, desperate need for safety. Communities began to believe that the spirit of such an animal could extend its protection over them. They thought that by honoring the wolf, its keen senses could warn them of approaching danger. By respecting the bear, its formidable strength could stand as a shield against their enemies. This was not mere superstition. It was a logical step for a species trying to carve out a safe space in a dangerous world. These creatures became the first line of defense against the unknown, from malevolent spirits whispered about in the dark to the very real threat of a rival tribe. This reverence transformed them from powerful beasts into something more. They became sacred symbols. The wild neighbor was invited inside, not as a pet, but as a guardian spirit, the original prototype for every divine protector that would later watch over great cities. The Nile's murky waters held a power beyond simple sustenance. They held a god. In the city known as Crocodilopolis, the people did not merely fear the crocodile. They built a civilization around its divine representative. A specific, live crocodile was chosen, a creature so revered it was housed in a magnificent temple pool, its skin adorned with golden earrings and jeweled bracelets. This was not a prisoner, but a living incarnation of Sobek, the crocodile deity. The logic was both practical and profound. Sobek embodied the Nile's dual nature. He was the source of the annual flood that fertilized their fields, and he was the terrifying predator lurking in the very same waters. By deifying the crocodile, the Egyptians performed a remarkable act of symbolic alchemy. They transformed a direct physical threat into a manageable spiritual one. The river's danger could not be eliminated, but it could be negotiated with. If the city honored Sobek through his living avatar, then his wrath would be soothed. The crocodile's fierce nature was not diminished, it was redirected, becoming the very source of the city's safety and prosperity. This sacred animal became a daily, visible reminder of the pact. People could approach the temple, make offerings, and see their divine protector. It was a guardian you could look in the eye, a terrifying assurance that the life-giving Nile would not turn against them. This powerful idea of a physical animal serving as a city's divine shield resonated far beyond the banks of the Nile. While the crocodile of Crocodilopolis was a singular, magnificent spectacle, another ancient tradition wove its animal guardians directly into the urban fabric. In the heart of classical cities, within the very sanctuaries of healing, lived the sacred snakes of Asclepius. These were not monsters to be slain, but revered, non-venomous creatures that slithered freely through the Asclepians, the hospitals of their time. The sick and the injured would lie in these halls, and the gentle glide of a snake across the floor was not a cause for alarm, but a sign of divine favor. The people believed these snakes were direct agents of the god of medicine, their touch capable of transferring healing power and driving away the malevolent spirits thought to cause illness. This was protection redefined, not as a shield against invading armies, but as a defense against the invisible enemies of disease and decay. That same protective instinct found its way into the Roman home. Every Roman household honored its genius loci, the protective spirit of the place, and this spirit was very often embodied by a resident snake. This household guardian was considered a member of the family, a silent, watchful presence that lived in the rafters or beneath the hearth, ensuring the health and fortune of the home and warding off misfortune. Imagine the comfort, the profound sense of security in knowing your home was watched over by such a constant, physical manifestation of protection. This was a guardian you might glimpse in the lamplight, a familiar resident sharing your space, blurring the line completely between a simple animal, a living symbol, and a spiritual entity. From the Mediterranean, where guardians were woven into the daily life of the city and home, we traveled to the Far East, where a different kind of protector ruled the waters and gave rise to one of history's most enduring legends. Along the great rivers of China, the people faced a force far greater than any human army, the unpredictable, devastating power of the flood. Their response was to create a guardian of immense scale and authority, the Dragon King. These were not mere beasts, but divine bureaucrats, celestial kings who ruled from palaces at the bottom of every major river and sea. Each Dragon King commanded the weather and the waters of his domain. For a city built on the fertile plains of the Yellow River, survival depended on maintaining a delicate relationship with this volatile sovereign. They built beautiful temples on the riverbanks, not as monuments, but as diplomatic embassies to a god. Through prayers, music, and offerings, the city negotiated for its own safety, pleading for the Dragon King's favor. A pleased dragon meant gentle, life-giving rains and a generous harvest. An angered one meant a tidal wave of divine wrath. This belief shaped the very landscape of China. The placement of a city, the orientation of a temple, even the design of irrigation canals, all were part of a spiritual geography designed to honor and appease these aquatic sentinels. The dragon was the perfect symbol for this relationship, a creature that embodied the water's dual soul, both the serene pond and the raging typhoon. It was the ultimate guardian because it controlled the very element it threatened you with. This concept of a fearsome, demanding protector was not unique to the East, however. Far across the world, another civilization would raise a guardian so intimidating that its legend would eclipse the city it was meant to defend. But a guardian's role was not confined to the spiritual realm. In the hands of a determined general, an animal could become the ultimate weapon of psychological warfare. The city-state of Carthage staked its survival on this brutal logic, fielding armies where the most feared soldier was not a man but an elephant. When Hannibal led his forces, including dozens of these colossal creatures, across the treacherous Alps, it was a statement calculated to paralyze his Roman enemies with dread. These war elephants were more than mere beasts of burden. They were living, breathing siege engines, their sheer mass capable of shattering fortified gates and trampling disciplined infantry lines into chaos. The ground shook with their approach, and the sound of their trumpeting alone could unravel the courage of the most seasoned legionary. For Carthage, each elephant was a symbol of terrifying authority, a walking declaration that the city commanded the very forces of nature. To challenge Carthage was to face a power that could mobilize monsters. The legend of Hannibal's campaign, of his impossible crossing and his pachyderm shock troops, endured for centuries not merely as a military tale, but as a story of supreme intimidation. It cemented the elephant not just as a tool of war, but as a permanent fixture in the narrative of imperial ambition and seemingly invincible might. This projection of raw power through a controlled animal finds a fascinating, more delicate parallel centuries later in the skies above medieval fortresses. While elephants thundered across battlefields, a quieter, more cerebral form of guardianship was taking root high on the stone walls of the Tower of London. A prophecy declared that the Kingdom of England itself would crumble should the 6 resident ravens ever abandon the ancient fortress. This was not a guardian of flesh and blood, but a guardian of fate. These intelligent birds, initially kept perhaps as simple scavengers to clean the grounds, were gradually woven into the very fabric of British identity. Their ominous presence and sharp intelligence transformed them from common birds into living symbols of national continuity. To ensure the prophecy could never be fulfilled, the raven's wings are carefully clipped, a physical act that binds a superstition into tangible reality. Their daily care is a matter of state security, their well-being a barometer for the nation's perceived stability. They do not fight invaders or control the elements, they simply exist, and in that existence, they hold an entire kingdom together in the collective imagination. This evolution from practical scavenger to profound symbolic protector reveals just how deeply an animal's role can be rewritten by legend. Yet for every guardian standing in the spotlight of myth, another worked from the deepest shadows. While the ravens of the tower guarded a kingdom's fate, another guardian worked in the quiet corners of the home, its protection measured in the grain it saved from ruin. In the sprawling granaries and sun-baked dwellings of ancient Egypt, the cat was a silent sentinel on the front lines of survival. Its duty was not to face down armies, but to hunt the unseen invaders that threatened the city's very lifeline, the relentless rats and venomous snakes that infested the food supply. This was a battle waged every night in the dark, a crucial, practical service that secured the health and prosperity of every household. From this indispensable role grew a profound reverence. The Egyptians saw in the cat's graceful lethality and fierce maternal instincts a reflection of the goddess Bastet, the divine protector of the home, fertility, and childbirth. To harm a cat was not merely a nuisance, it was a grave crime, an offense against the divine order itself. The bond was so deep that families would mourn a deceased feline companion with elaborate rituals, mummifying its body for the journey to the afterlife. This was a guardian operating on 2 inseparable levels. Physically, it defended the pantry and the granary, the foundations of civilization. Spiritually, it served as a living vessel for a goddess's favor, safeguarding the household from misfortune. Its quiet, efficient work in the background was as vital to the city's well-being as any fortified wall or regiment of soldiers. The deification of the cat transformed a simple pest controller into a sacred partner, elevating a practical relationship into a spiritual covenant that cemented the animal's protected status for centuries. This perfect fusion of pure utility and deep veneration reveals a powerful truth. A guardian's worth was not always in its roar, but often in its silent, unwavering service. And sometimes the power ascribed to an animal was believed to extend beyond the physical world, offering protection from threats no human eye could even see. A dog's bark in the deep of night carried more than a simple alarm. In the misty realms of Celtic and Norse belief, that sound was a shield against the unseen, a declaration that the boundary between our world and the next was being guarded. Dogs were the appointed sentinels of the liminal, the spaces in between. For the Celtic goddess Nehalenea, a canine companion was a constant presence, symbolizing her role as a guide and protector for those embarking on perilous journeys, especially sailors facing the treacherous North Sea. Her dog was not a pet, but a sacred partner in safeguarding travelers at the ultimate threshold, the line between the safety of land and the unknown dangers of the open ocean. This protective role took a far more fearsome form in the frozen north. There, the monstrous hound Garma stood watch at the entrance to Helheim, the Norse underworld, his ferocity ensuring that the dead did not return and the living did not trespass. He was the ultimate border guard, a living lock on a cosmic gate. These powerful myths were not confined to grand cosmologies, they filtered directly into daily life. An ordinary farm dog was more than a companion. It was a household's first line of defense against malevolent spirits and ill fortune. Its keen hearing and sharp sense of smell were believed to perceive threats that human senses could not register. A dog staring and growling at an empty corner was not seen as behaving strangely. It was seen as doing its job, confronting a presence only it could detect. This profound belief made the dog an essential spiritual appliance, a creature that could enforce cosmic and community order simply by standing at the threshold of a home. The humble watchdog was, in essence, a smaller, domestic version of the great Garma, protecting the family hearth with the same unwavering vigilance as the great beast guarded the realm of the dead. As human ambition grew and cities reached for the sky, the role of these animal guardians would expand in scale to match, moving from the spiritual borders of the home to the very real, physical frontiers of empires. The great Sphinx of Giza carved this protective bond into the very bedrock of the desert. A colossal fusion of a lion's body and a pharaoh's head, it was not merely a statue but a permanent sentinel. The lion, long revered as the ultimate symbol of royal power and solar strength, was the perfect form for this eternal duty. The Sphinx was positioned as the unwavering guardian of the Giza necropolis, its stone gaze fixed to protect the tombs of the pharaohs from any who would dare desecrate them. Its power was not in physical movement, but in its immense spiritual presence, a psychological and divine barrier against grave robbers and malevolent forces. This was protection scaled up to an architectural level, a projection of unyielding defense meant to outlast the rise and fall of empires. It represents the ultimate fusion of animal symbolism with human ambition, a monument so grand it became the very power it was meant to represent. Its silent, weathered form poses a riddle that echoes through the ages, a question about the nature of protection and the legacy we build to achieve it. This monumental approach was not unique. Across the ancient world, civilizations carved griffins, dragons, and sphinxes into their gates and temples, building their guardians from stone to make their authority permanent. Yet for all the power of these carved sentinels, other legends spoke of guardians that required no sculptor's hand, creatures believed to be entirely real, dwelling in the remote and dangerous corners of the earth. The legend of the Griffin demonstrates how a creature of pure myth could be weaponized to guard a real and immense treasure. Greek travelers like Herodotus brought back astonishing tales from the wilds of Scythia, describing a fierce beast with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle that stood sentinel over vast, untapped gold deposits. This was not a guardian of a city or a temple, but of the raw wealth of the land itself, a creature patrolling the very edge of the known world. The genius of this myth lies in its probable origin. In the wind-scoured deserts of Central Asia, ancient prospectors would have stumbled upon the weathered skeletons of Protoceratops dinosaurs. To their eyes, the large, beaked skull fused to a four-legged body did not suggest a long-extinct reptile. It clearly pointed to a terrifying hybrid, a lion-eagle that must be fiercely protective of the gleaming gold nuggets found in the same ground. This was a perfect, self-perpetuating story. The fossils provided the proof, and the presence of gold provided the motive. Why would anyone risk their life to steal from a nest guarded by such a monster? The Griffin myth became a brilliant, self-enforcing security system. It projected a supernatural deterrence across a vast, unpoliceable frontier, controlling a vital economic resource through the sheer power of a frightening story. This creature did not just guard gold, it guarded the boundary of an empire's influence, marking the line between civilization and the terrifying unknown. So why was the griffin, this specific combination of animals, the chosen symbol for this task? The answer lies in the raw, universal power of its components. These powerful myths reveal a pattern that transcends geography and culture. The human mind consistently reaches for the animal kingdom to construct its most potent symbols of safety. This is not a coincidence but a deep-seated psychological instinct. We see in animals the qualities we either lack or deeply admire: raw strength, unwavering loyalty, senses that pierce the veil of night, and an untamed connection to the wild world we have left behind. We project these formidable traits onto them, amplifying their abilities into the supernatural. This process, called anthropomorphism, is how we make the vast, impersonal forces of nature feel knowable. It is far easier to negotiate with a dragon king for rain than to plead with the abstract, chaotic weather patterns. It feels more manageable to leave an offering for a crocodile god than to live in constant fear of a river's unpredictable floods. We transform our most profound anxieties, the fear of disease, of disaster, of evil itself, into tangible forms. A guardian animal gives that abstract fear a face, and a face can be confronted, appeased, or even befriended. This creature becomes our psychological buffer against a chaotic universe, a focal point for our need to feel in control. But the power of the guardian extends beyond the individual psyche. These shared beliefs are the glue that binds a community together. When every person in a city honors the same sacred snake or fears the same mythic griffin, they are participating in a collective identity. The guardian animal becomes a communal totem, a story told and retold that strengthens social bonds in the face of external threats. It is a declaration that we, as a people, are under the watch of a power greater than ourselves. This shared symbol fosters cooperation and a powerful sense of belonging, turning a collection of individuals into a unified civilization. With this psychological foundation firmly in place, ancient societies began to codify these beliefs, weaving their animal guardians directly into the physical and spiritual blueprint of their cities. A city's walls were its first line of defense, but its true strength was carved in stone at the very gates. To pass through the main entrance of an ancient Mesopotamian city was to walk between colossal, silent sentinels. Towering lamassu figures with the powerful body of a bull, the majestic wings of an eagle, and the wise head of a king stared down at every visitor. Their immense presence was a deliberate psychological and spiritual barrier. They were not mere decoration, they were the embodiment of the city's divine right to protect itself, a declaration that this space was watched over by powers greater than any army. This principle was universal. In Babylon, the Ishtar Gate was a breathtaking spectacle of glazed blue bricks, adorned with rows of golden lions, the sacred animal of the goddess Ishtar. Every person, from the lowest merchant to the highest ambassador, had to pass under the gaze of these relentless predators. The message was clear: you are entering a place under the protection of a formidable divine force. The animal guardian was thus integrated directly into the daily experience of urban life, its image stamped onto the very coins used in the marketplace and woven into the civic banners that flew above the administration buildings. This was identity and security fused into one powerful symbol, but the influence went even deeper, shaping the city's very footprint. A settlement might be deliberately founded on the eastern bank of a river to remain in the benevolent gaze of a serpent water deity believed to reside there. A temple complex could be aligned to the rising sun in honor of a falcon god, its long shadows casting a protective shape across the city at dawn. The urban landscape itself became a sacred diagram, a physical manifestation of the pact between the people and their protectors. The streets you walked, the gates you entered, all were part of a grand design intended to channel divine safeguarding. We can still walk through the ruins of these places today, long after the names of the gods have faded from memory, and feel the imposing weight of that ancient, stone-etched belief. Even a mighty empire needs a mother. The very heart of Rome's identity pulsed with the story of two abandoned twins, Romulus and Remus, saved from certain death not by a human but by a she-wolf. This creature, the lupa, did far more than offer her milk. She gave Rome its soul. Her act of wild compassion forged the city's foundational myth, a story that explained everything about the Roman character. They were a people born from the wilderness, toughened by animal instinct, and nurtured by a fierce, protective strength. The she-wolf was the ultimate guardian because she protected the city before it even existed, safeguarding its very potential. Her image became the empire's signature, stamped onto coins that traveled to every corner of the known world and cast in bronze to stand in its grandest forums. This was not a story about taming a wild beast, but about being adopted by one. The wolf was transformed from a dangerous predator prowling the hills into the sacred mother of a civilization, her ferocity now a symbol of Roman invincibility. Her legend provided a simple, powerful container for immensely complex ideals like destiny and resilience, making them feel innate to every Roman citizen. But empires change, and the practical threats that once defined a guardian's role can fade into history. What becomes of the legend when the world that created it is gone? The story of the lupa did not crumble with the Roman forums. Instead, it detached from its original context and evolved, proving that a guardian's true power often lies not in its physical presence, but in its enduring hold on the human imagination. A guardian's value was once measured in grain saved from rats or in the sharp bark that warned of an approaching stranger. These were relationships built on necessity, a direct and tangible exchange between human need and animal ability. But as stone walls grew thicker and societies more structured, the immediate physical dangers began to recede. The granaries became more secure, and the watchmen on the walls grew more numerous. The living cat was no longer the sole defender of the food supply, and the dog was no longer the only sentry at the gate. Yet something remarkable happened. The practical role of the animal faded, but its symbolic power did not. It was as if the essence of the guardian was distilled, purified from its original function into a potent idea. The creature itself was no longer needed on the front lines, but its image became indispensable. We see this legacy all around us in the modern world. Stone lions still flank the entrances to courthouses and libraries. They do not snarl at invading armies, but their silent presence communicates an unshakable authority. We instinctively understand that these carved beasts represent strength, dignity, and protection. Their power is entirely psychological, a cultural echo of a time when a real lion's roar could freeze the blood. This transition from active partner to passive symbol reveals a profound truth about human psychology. We do not easily let go of the forms that once kept us safe. The symbol becomes a cultural anchor, a way to carry the comfort of ancient protections into a new and changing world. The meaning adapts, a lion guarding a bank vault instead of a pharaoh's tomb, but the core association with security remains untouched. This leaves us with a fascinating puzzle, however. When we look back at these ancient stories, how can we possibly separate the historical animal from the legendary guardian that grew around it? The line between fact and folklore is often beautifully, intentionally blurred. So how do we move from these powerful stories to solid, historical fact? The ground beneath our feet holds the answers. Archaeology does not just confirm these legends, it breathes life into them, turning whispered myths into a tangible reality we can touch and see. Take the vast necropolises of Egypt, where excavators have uncovered not just pharaohs, but entire cemeteries dedicated to animals. We have found millions of mummified cats, ibises, and even crocodiles, each one carefully prepared for the afterlife. These were not random pets, they were religious offerings, physical manifestations of a plea for divine protection. In the ruins of Crocodilopolis, the sacred pools are still there, the very tanks where the living god Sobek resided. At the Greek healing sanctuaries, you can still walk through the rooms where non-venomous snakes once slid across the floors of the sick, their presence a prescribed part of the treatment. Then there are the countless smaller objects, the amulets carved in the shape of a protective eye or a lion's head, worn by ordinary people as a personal shield against harm. Seals used to stamp official documents bore the images of guardian beasts, embedding their authority into the very paperwork of the state. This is not the stuff of abstract belief. This is the evidence of a world you practiced every single day. Perhaps the most compelling link between bone and legend comes from the Gobi Desert. The discovery of Protoceratops dinosaur skeletons, with their beak-like faces and four-legged bodies, scattered across the same gold-rich grounds where the Greeks said the Griffin lived, provides a stunning scientific basis for the myth. Ancient people saw those fossils and constructed a logical, if terrifying, explanation for the bones and the treasure they guarded. This global pattern is unmistakable. From the Lamashu statues of Mesopotamia to the jade dragon amulets of China, cultures with no contact with one another all felt the same deep-seated need to enlist the animal kingdom as their protectors. The physical proof is overwhelming, a chorus of artifacts that confirms our ancestors did not just tell stories about these guardians, they lived alongside them, they fed them, they built temples for them, and they buried them with honor. The line between fact and folklore begins to dissolve, revealing a shared human impulse so powerful it literally shaped the world we built. A lion carved into a Mesopotamian palace wall and a lion guarding the entrance to a London library are separated by thousands of years and miles, yet they speak the same silent language of power. This pattern repeats itself across the entire map of human civilization. In the Americas, the eagle soared as a divine messenger, its sharp eyes believed to see all, from the mundane world to the spirit realm, offering protection through its connection to the heavens. This is the same role the eagle played for Rome, where its flight was scrutinized for omens that could decide the fate of an entire campaign. Similarly, the serpent, a creature of the earth, appears again and again as a guardian of profound secrets. In Greece, it protected the sacred oracle at Delphi. In Norse myth, the great serpent Nidhogg gnawed at the roots of the world tree, a destructive yet essential force. And in China, as we have seen, the dragon commanded the rains. The specific animal may change with the local ecology, a crocodile on the Nile or a bear in the northern forests, but the role it is asked to play does not. A culture living under a vast, open sky looks upward for its guardian, choosing the eagle or the hawk. A society built along a treacherous, flooding river looks to the creatures within it, deifying the crocodile or inventing the dragon. The external danger shapes the form of the protector, but the internal human need for security remains the constant, the engine driving this entire phenomenon. This reveals a profound truth about our species. When faced with the terrifying unpredictability of life, from disease to disaster, we collectively sought powerful allies. We looked into the eyes of the natural world and chose partners, transforming the most formidable creatures we knew into sacred shields for our cities, our homes, and our souls. This global tapestry of belief shows us that we were never truly alone in our fears. From the deserts of Egypt to the plains of North America, the same deeply human instinct was at work, weaving a web of protection from the threads of the animal kingdom. And in some of the most compelling legends, this partnership became intensely personal, as the guardian itself could wear a human face. The ultimate guardian was not a beast to be appeased, but a power to be worn. In the biting cold of a Norse winter, a warrior did not merely pray to the bear for strength. He wrapped himself in its skin and became the bear. These were the Berserkers, men who were believed to channel the very spirit of the animal. Their human minds receding as a primal fury, the Berserker gang took hold. On the battlefield, they were terrifying to behold, said to be immune to fire and iron, their howls and roars echoing the wolves and bears they emulated. This was not simple costume, it was a sacred, terrifying transformation, a fusion of man and beast for the explicit purpose of protecting the clan. The Berserker was a weapon forged from this union, his loyalty to his people so absolute that he was willing to surrender his own humanity to ensure their survival. This same theme of transformation echoes through the dark forests of European folklore, where the werewolf was often more than a monster. In many local tales, the man who became a wolf was a guardian, a solitary figure who used his cursed form to patrol the village borders, keeping the real wolves or worse things at bay. He was a protector from within, one of the community who carried a terrible burden for the good of all. These stories speak to a profound human desire, the wish to internalize the guardian, to stop pleading with an external force and instead summon that ferocious power from within ourselves. This fusion directly confronts the duality of our own nature, the constant tension between the civilized self and the wild instincts buried just beneath the surface. The legends serve as a stark warning, of course. The loss of control is a constant threat, and the power always comes with a price. But they are also a fantasy of ultimate devotion, a promise that when the shadows grow too long, one of us can shed our skin and become the very thing that makes the darkness afraid. This concept redefines the very essence of protection, moving the guardian from the temple and into the human heart. With the rise of science and industry, the world began to feel less enchanted, and the role of these primal protectors would have to adapt once more to survive. A modern sports stadium erupts in a coordinated roar, tens of thousands of voices united not by a prayer to a god, but by the symbol of a beast. The Chicago Bulls, the Detroit Tigers, the Carolina Panthers, these names are chosen with deliberate intent. They are not random selections, they are modern battle standards designed to project an aura of invincibility and raw power. Just as a Roman legion marched behind the eagle, a symbol meant to channel the bird's keen sight and predatory speed, today's teams invoke the ferocity of the animal kingdom to intimidate their rivals and unite their followers. This is the ancient guardian stripped of its divinity, repurposed for the secular rituals of mass entertainment. The same psychological mechanism is at work on a grander, national scale. The American bald eagle was formally adopted as a national emblem, not for its gentle nature, but for its strength, majesty, and fierce independence, qualities the young nation desperately wanted to project to the world. The Russian bear embodies a hulking, formidable power, while the British lion, a creature not even native to the British Isles, was chosen to represent royal authority and courage. These animals function as secular totems. They no longer guard against floods or disease, but they guard something equally vital to a modern state, a sense of shared identity and national pride. They are symbols to rally behind, a focal point for collective emotion that strengthens the social fabric in much the same way the sacred crocodile unified the citizens of Crocodilopolis. The core human need has not vanished, it has simply adapted its costume. We still look to the animal kingdom to find a reflection of our own desired strengths, a powerful form to embody our shared aspirations. But as concrete and glass replace stone and timber, this symbolic relationship is becoming increasingly distant, a connection mediated by screens and logos rather than daily, tangible interaction. Our sprawling cities have pushed the wilderness to the margins, and with it, the tangible presence of our animal guardians. We have swapped the granary cat for pest control services and replaced the sacred crocodile with flood barriers and weather satellites. The living, breathing entity that once shared our space, demanding respect and offering protection in a direct, physical exchange, has been relegated to the realm of symbol and story. The lion is now a corporate logo, the dragon a cinematic spectacle. This abstraction carries a profound cost, for it makes the ancient pact feel like primitive superstition, a quaint belief we have outgrown. We lose sight of the raw, practical truth at the heart of these legends, that they were born from a fundamental interdependence with the natural world. The people of Crocodilopolis did not just tell stories about Sobek, they lived beside his incarnation, their survival literally depending on their ability to negotiate with the dangerous power he represented. Their belief was an active, daily engagement with their environment, a constant reminder of their place within a larger, living system. We have insulated ourselves from that system, and in doing so, we have forgotten the language of that relationship. The legend is all that remains, a beautiful shell emptied of its ecological meaning. This disconnect invites a difficult question: have we gained security, or have we merely traded one kind of vulnerability for another, perhaps a deeper, more existential one? The most vital lesson these forgotten guardians teach us is not about myth, but about balance. That lion carved on the courthouse wall was once a living, breathing part of a delicate balance. We have framed these ancient beliefs as superstition, but what if we have been reading them wrong all along? Many of these legends of protective animals functioned as humanity's first conservation laws. Think of the sacred cats of Egypt. The taboo against harming them was not merely a religious decree, it was a de facto wildlife protection act. By making the cat divine, the Egyptians ensured its population thrived, and a thriving cat population meant relentless hunters to control the rodents that threatened their massive grain stores. This was a brilliant, self-regulating system. The belief protected the animal, and the animal, in turn, protected the civilization's food supply. The guardian was not just a symbol, it was a keystone species, and its veneration guaranteed the health of the entire local habitat. This principle echoes across the world. In India, the reverence for the cow, considered a sustainer of life, prevented its slaughter. This ensured the continued availability of draft animals for plowing fields and producing milk, fundamentals of agricultural survival. The myth enforced a sustainable practice. The most striking example might be the Dragon Kings of China. The belief that a polluted or disrespected river would provoke a devastating flood from its dragon ruler is a powerful mythological expression of a very real physical truth. A silted, polluted river system is far more likely to burst its banks and destroy the cities built along it. The legend personified the cause and effect, making the abstract concept of environmental degradation feel immediate and personal. You could not see the complex dynamics of a watershed, but you could fear the wrath of a dragon. These stories were containers for vital survival knowledge, passed down through generations in the form of compelling narrative. They taught communities how to live in balance with their environment by giving natural forces a face and a voice that demanded respect. The folklore was the enforcement mechanism for ecological principles long before the term ecology was ever conceived. This was not primitive fear, it was profound, practical wisdom disguised as myth. It forces us to ask a difficult question of our own time. Have our own modern systems, for all their technology, managed to encode the simple, sustainable truth that harming the ecosystem is an act of self-destruction? The legends understood this instinctively, wrapping a vital warning in the formidable shape of a forgotten guardian. A guardian's legend is never carved in stone. It breathes and changes shape, molded by the hands of each new era that inherits it. The powerful she-wolf of Rome, for instance, was more than a founding myth to the artists of the Renaissance. They saw in her a potent symbol of civic virtue and republican strength, a classical ideal to be revived and celebrated in their own age. Her image was cast in bronze and painted on palace walls, not just as a relic of the past, but as a direct inspiration for the future. A far more dramatic transformation reshaped the dragon. Throughout medieval Europe, this creature was the ultimate embodiment of satanic evil, a beast to be slain by saintly knights like Saint George. It represented chaos, sin, and everything the ordered world of the church stood against. Yet, look at the dragons of modern fantasy. They are often wise, ancient, and fiercely noble, from the riddling Smog to the heroic companions of Pern. This rehabilitation reflects a profound shift in our collective psyche. Our fears are no longer primarily spiritual, but ecological and existential. The dragon has been reimagined as a guardian of lost knowledge and a symbol of a wild, natural world we are in danger of destroying. Its power is no longer something to simply be defeated, but something to be understood and perhaps allied with. This constant evolution is the key to a legend's survival. The core archetype, the powerful protector, remains a constant anchor, but its morality, its appearance, and its very purpose are in a state of endless renegotiation. A story survives not through rigid purity, but through its remarkable flexibility, its ability to find new relevance for new audiences with new fears. These creatures are active participants in our ongoing cultural conversation about what it means to be powerful, what it means to be natural, and what exactly we need protection from. Their endurance across millennia is the ultimate proof of their deep resonance in the human soul. To move from appreciating these stories to truly understanding their origins, we must become detectives of the deep past, employing specific techniques to separate the bone from the legend. A historian's workbench holds more than dusty scrolls. It is a forensic lab for the human imagination, where a single line of text can become a vital clue. When a Greek historian like Herodotus describes the gold guarding Griffin, his account is not taken at face value. Instead, it is placed beside a Babylonian cuneiform tablet that mentions a similar beast and a traveler's tale from a distant eastern land. By cross-referencing these scattered reports, historians can triangulate a myth's origin point, watching a story mutate as it travels along ancient trade routes, changing details to suit new landscapes and local fears. This textual detective work identifies the core, unchanging elements of a guardian, the universal human anxieties that gave it life. But words on a page are only one part of the evidence. The true turning point often comes from the soil. An archaeologist's trowel scraping against a temple floor in Egypt might uncover the bones of a mummified crocodile, its skull still bearing traces of gold leaf. This single discovery transforms the legend of Sobek from a poetic idea into a tangible, practiced ritual. In a different dig, the excavation of a Roman house might reveal a mosaic of a household snake beside the hearth, or the careful burial of a dog beneath the threshold, its skeleton positioned as if in eternal watch. These are not random acts, they are the frozen moments of belief, the physical proof of a relationship between a family and its guardian. Inscriptions on monuments and everyday objects serve as captions for these finds, explaining the rules of veneration and the penalties for harming a sacred creature. Archaeology gives the myth a body and a home, yet some mysteries require a different kind of expert. When a strange, giant skull is unearthed, it is the paleontologist who steps in. They can identify the fossilized remains of a prehistoric mammoth or a protoceratops, explaining how its unfamiliar anatomy could have been misinterpreted by ancient eyes. A massive, single nasal cavity in an elephant skull looks remarkably like the eye socket of a giant, giving rise to the Cyclops. The fossilized bones of a giraffe, with its long neck and ossicones, could easily be reassembled into the skeleton of a dragon by someone with no concept of such an animal. Zoologists contribute by understanding animal behavior, explaining how observations of real creatures were amplified into legend. The loyalty of a wolf pack, the terrifying charge of a mother bear, the uncanny intelligence of a raven. These observable traits became the raw material for a guardian's divine personality. Piecing this evidence together is like reassembling a shattered vase. Each fragment, the historical text, the archaeological find, the scientific analysis, only makes sense when fitted against the others. The story itself, as studied by folklorists, is the vase's original shape, a pattern that repeats across cultures. They track how a tale of a water spirit in one region becomes a dragon king in another, adapting to local rivers and ruling philosophies. This collaborative investigation reveals that a legendary guardian is never a simple lie or a literal truth. It is a cultural document, a complex artifact built from a kernel of observed reality, shaped by human psychology and polished by generations of storytelling. It shows us not what was, but what people believed was possible, and how desperately they needed to feel that power on their side. This meticulous process of reconstruction does more than illuminate the past. It gives us the tools to see the guardians taking shape in our own world, right now. A direwolf is more than a pet in the world of Westeros. It is a living sigil, a guardian bound by blood to the children of House Stark. This modern myth, like the lions of Pride Rock or the great eagles of Middle-earth, did not emerge from a vacuum. It is a direct descendant of the ancient packs we have traced across history, a familiar archetype dressed in new digital effects and cinematic spectacle. These contemporary guardians perform the same essential function as the sacred crocodile or the household snake. They externalize our deepest anxieties about loyalty, power, and survival. The direwolves are not just protectors of their human companions. They are symbols of the Stark's connection to the wild, ancient North, a tangible reminder of the primal strength they must harness to survive the political winters descending upon them. Similarly, the narrative of the Lion King is a classic guardian myth reborn, a story of rightful inheritance, cyclical violence, and the balance of the natural order, all embodied by the animal ruler. These stories are not simple escapism, they are a cultural training ground. They allow us to safely rehearse our own conflicts between civilization and wild instinct, between the duty to protect and the temptation to dominate. We explore the weight of leadership through Simba's journey and the cost of betrayal through Scar's reign. we understand the fierce, unspoken bond of family through the Stark children and their wolves. Modern media has become the new temple where we commune with these symbolic beasts, and the screen is the new temple pool where their power is reflected. This constant retelling and reimagining proves that our psychological need for the animal guardian is not a fading echo. It is a persistent, dynamic, and vital part of our collective psyche, a story we seem compelled to tell ourselves over and over again. So why do these forgotten guardians, these echoes from Crocodilopolis and the Tower of London, still resonate with such force in our technologically insulated world? These ancient stories offer us far more than a glimpse into a superstitious past. They hold up a mirror to our own fractured relationship with the natural world, revealing a path we have largely forgotten. Our ancestors did not see themselves as separate from the ecosystem, but as active participants in a living, breathing network of mutual dependence. The sacred crocodile, the temple snake, the household dog, these were not just symbols, they were partners in a shared existence. Their survival and reverence were directly linked to human survival. This worldview encoded a profound ecological wisdom into the very heart of culture, a constant reminder that harming the guardian meant harming yourself. In our current age of climate crisis and staggering biodiversity loss, this lesson has never been more urgent. These legends challenge our modern assumption of dominance, asking us to replace exploitation with respect and to see the animal kingdom not as a warehouse of resources, but as a community of potential allies. The forgotten guardian reminds us that our own fate is irrevocably woven into the health of the world we have tried so hard to control. Yet the pull of these archetypes is not merely ecological, it is deeply, fundamentally human. We all carry an innate longing for protection, for guidance through life's uncertainties, and for a connection to a power greater than our individual selves. These stories give that abstract longing a form. They provide a narrative vessel for our deepest anxieties and our highest hopes, allowing us to grapple with the terrifying and the sublime through the powerful, relatable image of a protective beast. By remembering these forgotten guardians, we do more than just recall a historical fact. We reclaim a vital piece of our shared human heritage, a chapter in our story where we lived by a different, more humble code. We begin to see the invisible threads that still connect the lion on the courthouse steps to the living Lupa of Rome, and the dragon on a corporate logo to the River King of ancient China. This legacy is a quiet, persistent call to remember our true place within, not above, the intricate web of life. It is a call to listen for the echo of their protection in the stories we still tell, and to wonder what new guardians we might need to forge for the challenges ahead. From the sacred crocodiles of the Nile to the ravens of the tower, the stories of forgotten guardians reveal a profound truth. Our history is inextricably linked with the animal kingdom. These creatures, both real and imagined, provided more than just physical security. They offered psychological comfort, shaped cultural identities, and encoded ecological wisdom. They were the original symbols of the pact between humanity and nature. As we have journeyed through these legends, we see that the line between history and myth is often blurred, and that the most enduring protections are sometimes woven from stories. Let these tales inspire you to look at the animals in our world and in our stories with new respect and curiosity. What legends are we creating today? If you found this exploration of our ancient protectors fascinating, please subscribe for more journeys into historical mysteries and share your own favorite animal legend in the comments